Hello everyone. I've got my beloved unicorn mug of Spice Dragon tea, and today we're playing Mr. Maker 3D Level Editor, though we won't be messing with the level editor much. We're actually going to be playing through... Oh, the music stopped. I recall the loop being longer than that. Anyway, we're actually going to be playing through the baked-in levels, the pre-made ones, while I talk about Christmas and some other things. You're probably watching this long after Christmas, but for me, Christmas just ended, and... Oh! I hit myself on the microphone box. But for me, Christmas just ended, and it was quite lovely. I got to give a lot of very personalized gifts to a lot of people, and my lovely roommate, Sock, got me a shirt with Amalthea from The Last Unicorn on it, which was incredibly thoughtful. I love The Last Unicorn. It's a strong contender for my favorite film, right up there with The Lego Movie Part 2. And that's saying something because The Lego Movie Part 2 is one of those movies where even thinking about it too much will make me cry. I'm just so deeply enamored by The Lego Movie 2's themes that it resonated with me in a way that few other films do. The things it has to say about human tribalism and the way we accidentally hurt each other while trying to reach out and understanding, it all just felt very beautiful to me. And anyone who knows how much I love The Lego Movie 2 will tell you that to say that something is challenging that love is quite spectacular. It took a long time for me to watch The Last Unicorn too. I didn't get to it till this last year. Mr. Maker 3D level creator, though. This was not a Christmas gift. It was just on sale for $1. And I love 3D platformers a lot. So I figured it couldn't hurt. And it doesn't hurt per se, but it could still be a lot better. I don't want to be too mean. It's clear the developer wanted to make this game, but it just feels like the creativity wasn't quite there. It takes a long time for the levels to turn into anything interesting. I can only think of about 2 levels where the mechanics are used in a creative way, and the coins don't actually do anything, which is by far the strangest thing about the game, I think. There are so many coins to collect, and they're only good for achievements. They don't actually do anything in-game. And when you're making a level editor, you really want all of the features to be attractive or have purpose, so that way the people making the levels in your level editor will want to use those features. But even though this isn't exactly my favorite 3D platformer, it's competent enough. The jumping feels fine, and even though there is only one power-up, I really like the concept of magic hammers, always have. It's just not a terribly engaging game, but it is a relaxing one for that same reason. There are a lot of games I can't play because I feel pressured to be thinking the whole time. Oh, hit the mic box again. And this isn't a game where I feel pressured to think, for better or worse. So there's plenty of time to talk about other things. Like how one of my close friends, Adam, who I've talked with for many years, but we've been talking even more lately, and it's been nice to get closer. One of my close friends, Adam, got me Pony World 3, and that game has a bit of a reputation. I'm not sure if it's earned. A lot of people leave kind of memey Steam reviews, being a bit jocular about the game's contents, which is, you know, there are a bunch of adults playing Pony World 3. There's some degree of snark to be expected. But I think that all art deserves its fair shake, and I am a fan of colorful horses, you might have noticed. Another odd thing about Mr. Maker 3D is that those wooden boxes we break, I've beaten this game before, and not a single one of those wooden boxes actually has something inside of it. which again is very odd. I'm not sure why you would put breakable wood boxes in the game if you can't really hide objects in them, especially since they're always placed in such a way that would imply that there's an object inside. But I digress. We were talking about Pony World 3. I think that Pony World 3 has, no joke, one of the most adorable loading screens I've ever seen. And I want to use that for something sometime because it's just so cute. And in general, I like Pony World 3 as a concept because life simulation games are hard to make and they're kind of rare, especially cutesy ones that are genuine about their cutesiness, you know? And I'm just in general a fan of there being more cute ponies in the world. That reminds me that while we didn't exactly spend the time together on Christmas, I did a couple days before Christmas or the day before Christmas get to watch my boyfriend Tricky stream. Oh, I can't pick up a second hammer, that's right. I did get to watch my boyfriend Tricky stream Slaughter Horse 2, I think is what it's called. Which is in contrast to Pony World 3, Slaughter Horse 2 is not a very friendly game about cute, colorful horses, but it does have them. It's strongly based on an old G4 fanfic, from what I can tell. A very gruesome one, and I won't go into detail or anything, but I admire that the developer was inspired by a work made so long ago, and the modern age, a decade now later, enough to make kind of a board game style video game about murdering ponies in a way that you don't get caught. You're trying to do it sneaky like. And a lot of people get put off by that kind of content, which is understandable. Everyone has different limitations. But I think that even in the cases where it's meant purely for entertainment, being able to think about unusual situations like that is beneficial because it stretches our imagination, opens us to new ideas, pushes our creativity. Speaking of pushing our creativity, again, not a whole lot of that in Mr. Maker 3D Level Creator. Mr. Maker 3D Level Creator actually reminds me a fair bit of this other game I played on the channel some time ago. Angel in Danger, I think it was. And like Mr. Maker 3D Level Creator, it has this perspective and a very similar blocky art style. And I was kind of harsh on Angel in Danger because while there wasn't much technically wrong with it, it was the case that I felt like its design was also lacking in creativity. But there's really nothing over here? Why would the developer put this? That's so strange to me. Anyway, as I was saying, while Angel in Danger was also certainly lacking in creativity, it had many more ideas and exuded so much more polish and a general feeling of passion than Mr. Maker 3D Level Creator. It is the case that in this game you can't even really distinguish the biomes by anything besides the color of the kill floor down there. It's blue in this one, sometimes it's purple. I think there's a green and yellow one. And that's really the only distinction between the biomes, and the enemies are kind of impossible to make threatening. They're very languid enemies. Let's take another sip of my tea. And this game in general... This game in general, while it controls fine and feels fine to play, and the bubbly music is absolutely appropriate, it is the case that it's practically completely absent of challenge, barring a few choice levels. And I do understand, of course, that, well, you know, 3D platformers have gotten easier over time. And not everyone's looking for the same 3D platforming experience. A lot of... Oh, there I go. A lot of people playing 3D platformers are looking to relax or explore, and that's fine. I prefer 3D platformers that really push my limits. Speaking of that, I've already talked plenty about how much I love One True Hero on the channel. I really do adore that game, but I also played this. I think it's Stairway to Heaven's Gate is what it's called, but it's this absolutely brilliant arcadey style 3D platformer where the goal is to climb up a tower of debris as fast as possible, and it seems like it takes you through the different eras of humanity. And the idea, I think, I'm not sure if it's my fault that that's happening or not. Anyway, the idea of Stairway to Heaven's Gate, I think, is that the further we get along in humanity's progression and human society, the more difficult it is to get to Heaven's Gate. At least that seems to be the running theme here. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I'm not really here to... I think I'm just gonna stop trying to jump on those enemies. Anyway, I'm not really here to fuss about the author's intention on that. I just think it's kind of neat that it takes place in this surreal landscape where you're hopping across these remnants of human civilization, things that you're very familiar with as a human who presumably lives in human society, but they're in such a transcendent and surreal context now that it just feels utterly different. Feels like nothing you've ever seen before. The game Stairway to Heaven's Gate in general feels a bit like if Nintendo, as they made NES games, decided to make a 3D platformer. You know, that sort of innovative, strange, ethereal atmosphere that NES Nintendo games had, but translated into a 3D platformer with a high focus on challenge, but still transporting the player to a completely new world each time you put in the cartridge. It's a very romantic way to describe the game, to be sure, but I think it's warranted. The music absolutely helps with that kind of atmosphere. See, they put the boxes here to like imply that you'd want to smash them, but there's just nothing in them. And I really don't know if you can put anything in them. Again, it doesn't seem like it. But yeah, Stairway to Heaven's Gate, I think is what it's called. But if it's not, I'll correct myself in the description or comments. Highly recommend it. Can I jump on that? Yes, I can. Absolutely, I think. I haven't finished it yet, but absolutely contender for one of the best games in its genre, just for how well it distills 3D platforming challenge and how tightly it controls, and the beautiful set pieces. It's really something else. It understands risk-reward gameplay more intimately than most games could ever hope to. Can't recommend it enough. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, you know, you want to play a fun, challenging 3D platformer, then highly recommend Stairway to Heaven's Gate. I think there are a few other 3D platformers I played recently. I played a bit of Poi. I remember Poi getting a fair bit of traction and attention when it first came out for being super polished. It is an indie game, but it has the atmosphere and style of something like Sunshine. And the level design so far is very reminiscent of Sunshine as well. In a good way, I would say. Sunshine is my favorite 3D Mario platformer. And the collectibles, of course, are similar to Shine Sprites, the gimmicks that you use to collect the Shine Sprite. I think they're called Explorer medals. But the gimmicks and levels built around those gimmicks also feel very sunshiny. I do need to play more of it. It is also a game where the movement is a bit stiff deliberately to make it more challenging to move around, to maneuver yourself across the platforms, and to create a greater sense of reward when you pull off incredibly skilled movement chains. Yeah, not a lot to complain about with Poise so far. I'm absolutely looking forward to playing more of that. Let's see, what else is there? Most of this stuff was on Steam, on Steam's winter Christmas sale thing. There's Runic Rampage, which is most certainly not a 3D platformer, but it is a beat 'em up. On the store page, it's advertised as Runic Rampage Action RPG, and I do think that's a bit misleading because although it is a game where you can purchase upgrades and smash the coins out of enemies and level up, I'm not super convinced that the stats do anything. Like, for example, I dumped all of my stats straight into strength and didn't even bother leveling anything else up. But I'm barely dealing more damage to enemies than I was at the start, if I am dealing more damage at all. And I spent all of my gold on a super-powered weapon with plus 10 damage, and if I unequip that weapon, I don't lose any of my DPS. So I'm not even sure it really is an action RPG, and if that is the case, it's unfortunate that it's advertised that way. I don't like that kind of dishonesty. And it's especially a shame because I think the game is quite good as a beat-em-up. Like, what the developer managed to achieve with the combat mechanics is quite good. It feels a bit like a modern Gauntlet, that there are some light combo elements, and the way you manage crowds of enemies by locking them down with attacks reminds me a lot of some of my favorite beat-em-ups. If the developer just wanted to make a game all about that combat system, I think that would be perfectly fine. But I don't know about advertising it as an action RPG. I'm currently running some tests to see if the RPG mechanics actually do matter. I hope they do, but if they do matter, it's not nearly enough. So, in short, Runic Rampage would recommend for the combat, not so much for the RPG elements. Oh no. I've been through worse. Let's see, what else? KAO The Kangaroo Round 2, the KAO The Kangaroo Round 2 remaster on Steam. Very good game. There's a reason it's rated so highly. A very good reason. It just feels excellent to play. There's very little wrong I can say about KAO The Kangaroo Round. I got greedy. I got greedy and tried to skip the challenge by jumping on the fences. Which I'm absolutely positive you can do, but you know what? I'm gonna try it one more time. Alright, going good so far. I think that's one of the only 2 wide gaps in the game, is this one right here. Another thing going against this game is that because everything is cubes, it feels rigid, and it's not that you can't make 3D platformers based around cubes that don't feel fluid, but the movement feels really stifled in Mr. Maker 3D. It controls fine. It just feels like the creativity the player is allowed to exercise is a bit muted, if that makes sense. There's a hammer in there. I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna go get it. We succeeded against all odds. There are bits of this game that feel like the developer thought he had a pretty creative idea. I'm gonna drink some more of my tea. Hey, we're already up at the second biome. Again, there's not much difference between this biome and the other one, which is a shame. What else have I been... Oh, Cosmic Shake, SpongeBob Cosmic Shake is coming out January 31st. And I'm extremely excited for that. I've consistently enjoyed every SpongeBob 3D platformer immensely besides Hero Pants. And although I'm not a fan of remakes in general, I feel like we shouldn't be remaking art for modern sensibilities. If games are art, I feel like we should be able to appreciate them as they are, in their own element, warts and all. But as remakes go, I feel like Rehydrated is one of the better ones. The game feel... As I was saying, the game feel is nearly identical. And it really feels like they tried hard to capture the spirit of Battle for Bikini Bottom, which is rarely the case with remakes. I don't think you're supposed to be able to throw the hammer that far. But, I would consider Rehydrated a good remake. It's absolutely not a necessary remake. Few remakes are, if any. But it's one of the good ones, so to speak. It is the case that I find myself missing the era of internet history where nerds would get really upset about remakes being unfaithful to the themes or ideas of the original work. It feels like if those people are still around, they've been largely drowned out by the amount of people clamoring for more remakes, and I just don't like that. I don't like that so much of our modern media output is just remakes or sequels to beloved franchises, and you know that these remakes aren't definitive. These things are going to be remade again and again, and that just hurts the soul a bit, you know? It just doesn't feel right to me. Oh, hold on. I think I remember this level. I think up is the way to go to get to the exit. You might have noticed I've been collecting all the coins, even though they don't really do anything. I was wrong. Up was not the way to get to the exit. We're all wrong sometimes. It is the case that because the coins don't do anything, there's no real reason to engage in bonus areas like that. It feels like a missed opportunity, because the reason coins and optional goodies exist is to entice the player toward bonus areas that they wouldn't normally engage with, and the player simply has no reason to engage if the coins don't do anything, if they feel like the reward is not worth the expended effort. What do you think the chances are that there's something behind those boxes? They seem very conspicuous, but in my experience from playing this game previously, none of the boxes have any coins or anything of value. Alright, we did it. I got distracted by my delicious tea. Don't worry, we'll catch up. We more than caught up. I feel like there had to be a better way to indicate the direction of these moving platforms than the floating white arrows. You could have made the white arrows invisible. The end user doesn't need to see those, I think. Obfuscating the cubic nature of the game by making the platforms round is one of the more interesting things Mr. Maker 3D does, which isn't saying much, but it is something. But anyway, yeah, I'm extremely interested in Cosmic Shake because it's a new SpongeBob 3D platformer, and historically, with one exception, those have been great, and I'm always down for more 3D platformers. I can't get enough of them. Now that I think about it, 3D platformers and beat 'em ups are, I think, the only two of my favorite genres that still get regular games. There's let's see, there's 3D platformers, beat 'em ups, cover-based third-person shooters, and driving games. I suppose you can make an argument that driving games are still around, but I feel like they've changed drastically. I was in the fortunate position to play Driver Parallel Lines a bit, and although I don't like it as much as Driver 3 or the original Driver, it still has that distinctive heavy sensation of the car fighting the road, and the really stern handbrake and the powerful drifting and the squeezing just right between cars and the having to look between the minimap and the road. There's just so many things about old driving games I really appreciate that it feels like it's just not around anymore, you know? It feels like most modern driving mechanics are meant to make it as easy as possible for the player to drive, whereas in the Driver series, it more felt like the idea was to give each car its own unique personality. And I love the Driver series for that. I'm not great with cars in real life, but I love driving games. And it seems like any modern driving games in the style of Driver would probably end up a bit easier than I would like. And it's hard to describe what I'm talking about when I talk about driving games, because I don't just mean driving games. I mean that very particular kind of driving game where you're an undercover cop or a criminal, and you're going through all these story-focused missions based on like movie set pieces, and it's such a unique way to add variety to the game, and there's so many creative things you can do with cars that a lot of developers don't even consider nowadays. But man, I loved that genre, and I hope it comes back. But yeah, there's still plenty of 3D platformers getting made. There's no doubt about that. Clive and Wrench is coming out soon, I think, too. I think Clive and Wrench has been in development for almost 10 years. Maybe it was 2015. I think it was 2015. It's been in development a long time, and I'm glad that the dev is. Can I just? It was worth a shot, as most things are. I'm glad that the dev is able to finally get their vision out there. I'm excited to see it in action. I remember playing the alpha demo a long time ago, and I think there were a lot of bugs, let's be fair, but the bug that stuck with me the most was this one where it's a collectathon, and the final collectible, it just didn't trigger for one reason or another, and that stuck with me for a while. But the game as it is now looks great, and I'm excited to play it. Not as excited as I am for Cosmic Shake, but that's something about SpongeBob 3D platformers is that they've always treated me right. I recognize that's a kind of brand loyalty, and I do try to avoid brand loyalty unless I'm aware that I'm engaging in it. So here's me, openly stating that awareness. I know that I'm talking about a brand, and that I like it because it's a brand, and that's okay. Can I jump up here? Hey, all right. This is just fun to do. I just like doing this. But regardless of whether it's always optimal, it's just kind of neat to get up there. The tea is about half gone. Oh, snow and lava. That's actually very common to see together in video games. What game was I just thinking of? It's on the tip of my brain. Oh yeah, Woodle Tree Adventure. I've played that a few times on this channel as well. I really enjoy Woodle Tree Adventure. It's got a similar camera and art style to this, but the art style, even though it's similar in how colorful it is a lot more distinctive because of the actual character designs. Much more round and slightly more detailed. But I've played Woodle Tree Adventures a whole lot. And I've played it so much that I believe I played it so much for such a long time that I believe that the first time I played it, I mentioned how there are barely any 3D platformers, which is no longer the case. There are tons of 3D platformers. But I revisited the Steam original for Christmas. I revisited the Steam original for Christmas, and I do definitely prefer it over the remastered Switch version, just because there are some little idiosyncrasies that'll exist only in the Steam version, like Woodle's backpack getting bigger as you eat more berries was completely removed in the Switch remaster for some reason. I'm not sure why. I mean, it did look kind of goofy, I guess, that Woodle's backpack would clip through him, but if you ask me, that's just an inescapable part of the charm of the game. That's probably the scariest jump I've ever done in this. Oh no, do I need the hammer? I may need the hammer. I wasn't expecting that. That's okay, we can nab it. I recall in my first playthrough being a bit frustrated having to wait on these platforms. But now it's not bothering me so much, probably because I'm thinking of other things while I did not realize that was not solid ground for some reason. Anyway, it's probably because I'm thinking about nicer things. This isn't an awful game to play. It's just not very intellectually intensive. So if you're in the mind to play something that makes you think, it's not good at that. There is a hammer in the center. Okay, there we go. It stays there floating for a bit. Just hanging out, I suppose. Until we throw it ourselves. At which point it disappears. Anyway, we have the hammer. Oh, goodness. Almost got pushed off the platform by the platform itself. Alright, there we go. That wasn't so bad. It is the case that there might be people that genuinely find design like this to be challenging and engaging. I just think that there can be so much more done, even with mechanics this simple, to give the game real legs. I really should play Woodle Tree 2 sometime. The open world adventure sequel to the original Woodle Tree. I do have it on... Lesson learned for next time, jump before you move. I do have Woodle Tree 2 on Steam. I'm not sure whether I should play that or the console versions first. I think that the dev who made Woodle Tree also made Suicide Guy. It's a very different kind of game. And Suicide Guy got a lot more traction for its premise and approachable puzzle game nature. Not that Woodle Tree Adventures isn't approachable, but it is. Oh, well, I'll be more careful next time, I suppose. It is a little sad that I recall Woodle Tree Adventures getting fairly negative reviews, even though playing it myself quite a lot, I don't recall there being anything really outwardly wrong with the game. It was just a nice 3D platformer, and playing it again recently reconfirms that. Yeah, there are some graphical glitches, but that's about it. That's about it. Let's see, what else? What else did I... Let me think about... Oh, a new biome. The sky biome? Wow, are we on level 30 already? But let me think. Scarygirl? I finally tried out the Scarygirl video game. The one published by Square Enix. I am enamored with its art style and storytelling, of course. It's very Burton-esque. I'm not sure about the gameplay because I did manage to softlock myself, or I suppose my roommate Nathan managed to softlock me. It wasn't really a big deal. It was more funny than anything. But he grabbed a checkpoint as the second player the moment I died as the first player. And the checkpoint, what it does is it saves your exact spot, it seems like. So it just saved me in my death state. And honestly, that was humorous enough that I don't feel cheated by it, but that is where we stopped playing. If there's a good place to stop, that was probably it. Let me grab some more of my tea. The tea's almost empty. Let's see, as to more Christmas stuff, I gifted my roommate Sock Infamous Second Son because they really love Infamous and Infamous 2. So I'm interested in how they'll feel about Second Son. They're actually currently playing through Infamous 2 for me. I'm watching them play it. They're a very entertaining person to watch play games. And it just feels nice to watch someone else play something they're passionate about. Especially when that someone is as analytical as Sock is. They tend to have a very deep appreciation for the themes and narrative of anything they play or watch. And I'm super grateful for that. It makes them really enjoyable to be around in general. More tea. I also got my other roommate, Nathan, Vampire Survivors Legacy of the Moonspell, which is that Vampire Survivors DLC. I think the only one so far. And, so he actually managed to spoil his own gift because we finished the base Vampire Survivors game. And then I uninstalled it and said, okay, that's it. No more Vampire Survivors. We're done playing Vampire Survivors. Move on to something else. And the reason I said that was because I was going to buy the DLC that night, and I didn't want him to see that we had the DLC installed, but it was going to be a surprise. You know, he'd start Steam up on Christmas morning, and I'd be like, hey, do you want to play some Vampire Survivors? And he'd be like, sure. And then he'd see the DLC installed and be surprised. But instead, when I went to bed that night, he decided to start up Vampire Survivors, and he saw that I bought the DLC days before Christmas. So he wasn't quite as surprised as I would have liked. But he does love Vampire Survivors, and he seems to really enjoy the DLC. We played in completely different ways. He's more of a completionist, and I just play to finish the Oh, here's one of the levels. Here's one of the levels where they actually try to do something creative with the mechanics they've given you. You have to land on the dead center of these trees, right, to actually step on them. And I think that's nice, that they tried to add genuine challenge by giving you a smaller area to land on. And it's not something that's readily apparent because nothing else in the game asks you to do that. None of the other platforming is this precise. And the entire level is built around this. Unfortunately, you can cheese it. I'm going to do a couple more attempts where I try to do it legit. Alright, that's one. One more. Alright, well, I guess it's cheesin' time. So, the concept is really nice, but if I recall correctly, it's fairly easy to just jump below the trees. Like so. All the way to the exit. And that's not great that I can circumvent the design this way. Because it was one of the most interesting things about the game, this level, and it's so easy to just get around. This does mean we're near the end of the game, though. I don't know if we're going to make it all the way, but certainly played it more than I thought we would. It's just nice to, you know, it's just nice to sit here after Christmas is over and talk about nice friends and nice boyfriends and fun games and gifts, and it's just nice. It just feels good. It's good times. There we go. Oh. I do think I should be getting to bed soon because not only is my tea almost empty, I'm gonna drink more now. Not only is my tea almost empty and so cold that the mug turned back to its original color, but it is late. It is late, and even though it is Christmas, it is after Christmas rather. It is it's both. It's both right now to me. Even though it's a special occasion is what I'm getting at. Oh, hold on. Can I bypass this blockade? Oh, I can. But can I jump back? Yes. Okay. That was exciting. I wonder if there's anything over here, though. I'm probably gonna call it quits after, oh. Well, if this is the end of the level, and I'm reading it properly, we need to bring the hammer all the way over here. So let's do that, and then I'll call it after this level. But this was fun. Felt good, felt wholesome, just felt right. I feel like I definitely could have made that jump. Anyway, now that we're back at the start, it's a chance to get the hammer proper. If there is another hammer, or maybe that was the hammer. Yeah, as to Mr. Maker 3D, it's not a terrible game. Like I said, it's just, as you're seeing, it could do with some more creativity. It feels like the level design isn't quite there. Can I make this jump? I can. That's basically, I just basically skipped the whole level. Wow. Anyway, as I was saying, it could do with some more creativity, and in some cases it feels like even in the creative levels, it's too easily to cheese your way out of the challenge. But I played far worse 3D platformers. I'm not sure if I'd recommend this over any other 3D platformers, but you know, you're seeing it. What you see is what you get. That's Mr. Maker 3D level creator. It's not terrible. It's all right.